Welcome back. Yes, now we're talking stress and anxiety, and indeed during times of uncertainty, panic, uh, don't know what's unprecedented levels of violence, people might be feeling increased levels of anxiety and stress. And common signs of one feeling anxious includes depression, hopelessness, sleep deprivation, ability to fall asleep, tension. And according to the South African Depression Anxiety Group, if high levels of unwanted stress are not adequately or properly managed, your health and sense of well-being can suffer. And it's with this we welcome a registered counselor, Cayley Jorgenson, to help us understand and provide insight as well as counsel and advice on how to handle anxiety and stress levels. Good morning, Cayley, and welcome to Mid Morning Talk here on Salam Media.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So tell me, what can we do to manage our stress levels, and should we first be assessing in terms of what is the source and the cause of our stress and anxiety? Is that maybe the point of departure for us in terms of managing this stress?
I definitely think so. So just in terms of kind of understanding what is anxiety, what is stress. So I do think it's really important that we all acknowledge that it is normal, to get nervous or to stress or to worry about certain things. But anxiety is more than the occasional worrying. Anxiety or stress is more than the occasional fear. So anxiety is when that stress, when that worrying affects our day-to-day living. So some symptoms could be in terms of intensive or intrusive worrying thoughts that disrupts daily functioning. So struggling to concentrate, struggling to do normal day-to-day things without that worrying there. Overthinking, constant worrying, which I've said, panic attacks, increased heart rate, unable to sleep. So anxiety and stress. So we need to understand, first of all, what are the symptoms? Because I've already said that it is a normal part of everyday life, the most important thing that we all need to be aware of and understand is, when is that not normal? When is that not okay? We need to notice those symptoms. And the main kind of pinpoint for me is, if it's affecting your daily life, if you're not able to do those day-to-day things that you should be able to do because the anxiety, because the stress is too much, that's when it is really important to actually reach out to a professional, a mental health professional, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, your GP, or even just phone through to, if you're going to phone to SADC, the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, or another mental health professional, but actually just reach out for that support, because anxiety and stress doesn't just affect the way we think, or doesn't just affect our feelings or our emotions. It can affect the way we think, the way we behave, and it's often things, it's disrupting us, it's making us feel nervous, it's possibly making us feel tense or restless. But when all of this is happening, some of the additional effects of anxiety could be headaches or muscle tension. You also, for example, panic attacks. So when you've got rapid, shallow breathing. So these are things that we need to take seriously, especially in the world we're living in today with COVID. And, 2 weeks ago, we were having these riots. So anxiety is something that we definitely are dealing with on a daily basis. But we also need to be able to recognize what's happening around us, what's happening with us, what are we feeling, what are we thinking. I hope
Kelly, 100%. I'm just thinking, in certain people, anxiety and stress, they have a predisposition in most of the time it's their perception and how they perceive various situations, and it's more internal triggers as opposed to external triggers. But from onset of 2020, and I think for me personally, July has just been a very, very traumatic month for everybody. We were in the beginning of July was the announcement that the third wave is here, and it was in fact more intense in terms of being contagious, in terms of the amount of death we had around. And then in the middle of this pandemic, we have an unprecedented violent event that we haven't seen our history in this extent and in this manner. So you're sitting with this pandemic, which in itself creates fear, and then you're watching, and for some it was real because they experienced it. They had to then come to the fore and become defenders in the absence of a lack of security and protection. They then had to become protectors of their property. And for me, the impact on the children as well, in terms of uh, us processing and then allowing the children to process it, and then having to explain to children what is happening around them,
Yeah.
and putting labels and feelings, because I was looking at younger children and they have not experienced this level of fear because we've always protected them and there was no need for them to be exposed to this. So now allowing them to label. So for me, this is now anxiety and stress that's from an external source. And even people who manage the anxiety and stresses along the way, they were feeling traumatized. I was feeling traumatized, and I've seen now many suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, and everybody's on edge at the moment. So how do we manage this mass anxiety, and that and how do we relate to children regarding their feelings and what they're feeling?
So completely. And I think something that we definitely do need to kind of acknowledge and that we need to talk about is exactly what you're saying. July, or the last, if I want to say it, like the last year and a half, has been so stressful for children, for parents, for adults, for everybody, for employers, employees, like everybody is stressed. There's definitely a difference between stress and anxiety, or stress and worries, and anxiety disorder. So before I kind of go into anything, anxiety disorder and PTSD, so that's that post-traumatic stress disorder, those are disorders that would need to be diagnosed by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But if we kind of come back to just general day-to-day, I think it's really important that we do acknowledge that everybody is stressed, everybody is worrying, because like we just said, there is so much to worry about in the current times. Now, I've got parents worrying in terms of how do they talk to their kids about COVID? How do they talk to their kids about the riots? Because their kids are seeing all of this on TikTok or discussing it on Fortnite or Discord. So, it's a very real kind of place that we're in at the moment. And I think there's a lot of people that are stressed. There's a lot of people that are worrying and having that fear. But in terms of how to deal with it, so if you are experiencing intense worry or intense fear and it's lasting longer than 2 weeks, please go and see a mental health professional. If it is still manageable, I want to encourage everybody what I like to call pause. Okay, so just pause. Every single letter in pause stands for something different. So the P quite literally stands for pause. To stop when you notice those anxiety or worrying symptoms, just take a moment, take a breath, stop what you're doing. The A stands for activity. So whether that's breathing, taking deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. The reason why in through your nose and out through your mouth is so important, because often we kind of breathe in through our mouth, breathe out through our mouth. But there's actually scientific research that says by breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth, slightly over the tip of your, like almost over your bottom lip, there's research that actually says it's calming as well. So that's why breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth is
I'm
so
trying it as you're speaking.
Yes. So that's the A. So doing that activity. The U for pause is understand. So this is really where it is important that we have to say to ourselves, okay, I understand that I'm experiencing these worrying fear symptoms, but I need to remind myself that I am safe. I can take a deep breath. The S stands for soothe. So if you are like me and you love your coffee or your hot chocolate, go and get a cup of hot chocolate, go and get a cup of coffee, go and take a sip of water. Just do something for yourself that's going to soothe. Some people like to wrap themselves in a blanket and just be comfy. Whatever it is for you that is going to help soothe you, do that. The E stands for exhale. So focus on taking those deep, long exhale breaths, whether it's outside or inside. But this anxiety, this stress, this worrying, this is all things we can't control. So often I use the example of if we had to say we're having a birthday party tomorrow and the weather says it's going to rain. We often stress so much about, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I've got all these people coming. And you start to worry about these things that we actually have no control over. We can't change the weather. As much as we would like to change it from raining or change it from cold to hot, that is something that is completely out of our control. But the thing with regards to the weather that we can control having sun cream, or we can control having an umbrella. So I always encourage people when they are feeling very anxious, they're feeling really stressed, to ask themselves, what can I control? In this current situation, what can I control? What do I have control over? Because if we are trying to control somebody else's behavior, somebody else's reactions, it's just going to cause us more stress, more anxiety, because we can't control that. So we need to come back. What is our umbrella? What can we control? And focus on that.
I love what you said, and I'm going to ask myself that always, what is my umbrella? I think we all should be asking ourselves that. So what can we control in terms of the umbrella to provide us with some comfort, protection, and security? So basically, we need to see what are our comforters and maybe our anxiety eliminators maybe as well. And I think that is good, because after all, these are all coping mechanisms and coping strategies that we need to start developing in terms of dealing with anxiety, because if anything, 2020 and 2021 told us that we need to learn to manage. So we can't just sit there and think, oh, well, it is what it is, but we need to then evolve and develop coping mechanisms. Yes, our umbrella. So we need to actually evolve and then develop these mechanisms that we can apply to ourselves, and also to empower our children to then develop these coping strategies. And I think if it's inculcated and incorporated into their lives early on, it makes them, I think, more grounded individuals in terms of dealing with their emotions.
100%. And I think we do also need to just focus on that grounding as well. So grounding can mean different things for different people, but especially when it comes to anxiety and stress and worries, we need to ground ourselves. Just bring us back to the present moment, bring us back to where we are. And again, remind ourselves, confirm to ourselves, I am safe right now, because stress and anxiety often kind of releases or can trigger that fight or flight. What am I doing? Am I going to fight? Am I going to freeze? Or am I going to flight? So we need to just ground ourselves, confirm, okay, I am safe. What can I do? And there's some awesome techniques that you can do just to ground yourself, incorporating your different senses. So asking yourself, what 5 things can I see? What 4 things can I touch? What 3 things can I hear? What 2 things can I smell? And what 1 thing can I taste? And that's really important, because it just helps us as adults, but also for the kids, just to ground ourselves in the present moment. All of our senses are present. They can't, we can't listen to something and then it happens, or we can't hear something, but it hasn't happened yet. So it's all in the present moment. So it's another way of just bringing ourselves back into the present moment and controlling and kind of grounding ourselves and confirming, I am safe. But again, it's also just reaching out to the people that can support us and talking about these feelings and these emotions that we're having, because 2021, 2020, all of that, it's been very stressful and very anxiety provoking. And we need to have conversations about that. We need to make these dinner table conversations, because it's something that everybody's going through.
Yes, and I hope this helped. Indeed, it helped me, but I hope it helped our listeners as well. As you say, initiating conversations regarding how we're feeling and working through them, and also providing coping mechanisms will indeed lead us onto a path of all-round well-being. Thanks so much for your time and for that input. And every time I think about umbrella protection, I'll say that certainly be thinking about Cayley. Thanks so much. Much appreciated. Hopefully, we can chat to you in the future sometime again. Go well, and may you be under the mercy and blessings of the Almighty.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. And that was registered counselor, Cayley Jorgenson. And after the break, we just 2 minutes after noon already. And after the break, we are going to be speaking Women's Month. Yes, August is Female Month. And Salilo and gang, you need to be extra nice to us and treat us special. And please bring us some treats because it is our month as well. Yes, so a month to acknowledge women as well as spoil us a little in terms of to show your appreciation. All this after the break.